Hey there, everybody. It's Mark Crilley. I'm back with a message to my subscribers video. A couple of promises I'm going to make to myself. I'm going to try not to say, that was a good question, or that's a great question, because last time I did one of these videos, every single one, I began by saying that. The other thing is I'm not going to apologize for mispronouncing names. These YouTube names, some of them very hard to pronounce. I'm just going to go for it, and if I mess it up, so be it. Let's go on to the first question, and it comes from Gnarl. And the question is, can you show us how well you draw with your left hand? And so, let us pass the pencil to the left hand. That's what this video is going to be all about. Going to be challenging myself to make a drawing using my left hand. Now, my idea is to do a drawing of a close-up of the eyes of my character, Brody from Brody's Ghost. So I'm going to give myself a little head start with some guidelines, sort of placement lines, and, even doing this, I have to say, for someone who's right-handed, it's a little tricky. But who knows? This could be a useful thing for me to learn to do. All artists kind of fear having an accident or something where you would lose the use of your good hand, or the hand that you're used to using. If I were, heaven forbid, to lose the use of my right hand, I would have to switch over to the left hand and just do my best to acquire some skills. Let's go ahead and move on to the next question, and it is, when you have an idea for a new series, do you do research to check if anyone has done that concept already? That question comes from ShadowLink121. Really, when I'm coming up with a concept for a series, the thing that I focus on making sure it hasn't been used before is the title. Sounds kind of funny. But I will do a Google search to make sure that the title that I've come up with is not a title that already exists. As far as the concept goes, I don't know. I think I guess I would search around a little. But the truth is, a lot of concepts that you use are very basic, and they have been done before, but you can feel pretty sure that they have not been done, exactly the same way that you're going to do it, because the details will change from one artist to the other, or from one writer to another. Like when I described the plot line of Brody's Ghost before I even did it, a lot of people heard some of the basics of that plot line and said, oh, this is the same old thing. It sounds just like every other thing I've heard of before. And, to be sure, it has some elements that have been done before. But I think once the book got out there, people saw that the details of it were, unique. So I guess the reason I wanted to answer that is I thought that some people might be worried that, am I going to get sued if my story idea is not absolutely 100% original? And I would say don't worry about that. You just go ahead and do it. You'll do it your own way, and unless you're copying names and real specific details from someone else's story, you'll be fine. Okay, next question. What if your artwork would have never gotten popular? Where would you be today? Working in a grocery store? I love that final question. From Multi-Tiger Studios. It's true that my making a living for me requires, to a certain degree, reaching a level of success, of popularity, but my books need to sell to some degree if I am to continue doing this for a living. So there were points, I think I talked about this in a previous video, there were points in the past where I felt things were not going so well, and I wasn't sure if I should keep trying to do this or if I should try to do something else. I think the most likely path for me, if I had not found success in writing and illustrating, would be teaching English in the Far East. There was a time some years ago when I did consider the possibility of sort of giving it up and let's move to Japan. I said to my wife, and we can start all over again, and I'll teach English in an English school or something like that. But happily, it was right around then that Minky Falls came through for me, and so that remains kind of an open question. What would I be doing if I had not managed to find success doing this? Hopefully not working at a grocery store doesn't seem like it's the ideal situation for me. Boy, you can see me really doing my best to try to draw with my left hand. It is not easy, let me tell you. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Show us some of your worst illustrations and tell us why you dislike them. That question from OG Pizza Boy. So yeah, I thought I would actually prepare for this, and I'm going to go ahead and set the pencil down for a moment and show you. I challenged myself to find one example from each book in the Brody's Ghost series. And the first example is easy to find. It's the front cover of the first Brody's Ghost book. I'm not 100% satisfied with this illustration. The anatomy looks a little weird. It also looks like I'm trying a little too hard. I was very desperate to prove to people that this was going to be a tough, exciting action kind of a story, and it's a little bit overkill, his pose and so forth. I think I'm maybe, trying a little too hard to convey the action, tough guy feeling of that story. Brody's Ghost Book 2. In here, there is a climactic moment. I don't want to do too much in terms of spoilers, but there's a climactic moment when he's standing in front of this big fire. And I feel like the anatomy is off in this illustration. I should have. This is one of these ones where I did not use reference. I tried to just draw the body as I imagined it would look from behind. And I probably should have tried to find photo reference of somebody standing in that pose. It would look more natural. As it is, it looks stiff. It just looks a little weird to me. And this was supposed to be a big pivotal moment in the story. So, kind of dissatisfied. Wish I could go back and have another crack at that one. And then in Brody's Ghost Book 3, the last one. Hang on, because I thought I bookmarked this page, but now I'm going to have to find it. Just a second. All right, here it is. This is from Brody's Ghost Book 3, you can see here. And there's a page here where the face of this female character is pretty inconsistent as you go from far away to the middle distance and then into the close-up. I really should have worked harder at this to make sure it looked like the same woman, because if you compare even just this one and this one, they look like two different people, and then you go from here to there, and again, it just doesn't look like it's the same character. I know I hear from a lot of people who struggle with that, and I wanted to show you that because it would just help you understand, I struggle with it too. Consistency in your character, and making sure that you draw the character the same way each time. Boy, this one, one thing I may have to do with this video is do some time lapse at the end, because it's, drawing with my left hand requires me to draw quite slowly, and you can see how there's no steadiness in my line work. I'm having to kind of work my way toward a finished line little by little. These almost aren't even like lines. It's sort of like I'm building up tone because I have lost the ability to work very precisely with a single stroke of the pencil. So I'm kind of compensating by gradually building towards, right? This is going to be one of his eyes. Another thing that I decided to do is, you can see I'm allowing the page to move, which allows me, which I rarely do in these videos, it allows me to move the paper and maybe take advantage of the natural pivot point of my wrist. One thing that I decided to do early on in these videos was to lock the page down so as to allow the viewer to see very clearly what I was doing. And unfortunately, it does sort of remove the possibility for me of doing what I'm doing right now, and that is to sort of spin the page around, which is quite helpful, to be honest, in terms of line work. So I'm doing my highlight here. Let's move on to the next questione. All the Spanish speakers are like, please don't ever try to pronounce that word again. Number 5. Why did you originally decide to go to Japan? It's kind of a two-part question. That question comes from Kitty Kuro, And the follow-up question, a different person, how was your experience when you traveled, when you lived in Taiwan, late 80s / early 90s? That one comes from All W Sam FC. I thought it would be fun to sort of just talk a little bit. First of all, why did I decide to go to Japan? And that sort of ties into that other question. The truth is I went to Taiwan before I went to Japan. And without giving you my whole life story, I think I kind of have to explain in general why did I become so interested in foreign travel, in living overseas. And I trace that back to my freshman year of college. I kind of fell in with a bunch of students from Europe. Mainly like France, Germany, Denmark, places like that. And I was fascinated by their ability to switch back and forth between English and their native languages, and just, I don't know, the whole idea of going over and visiting them and seeing different countries just really grabbed me at that point. And so I did a trip to Europe when I was a sophomore in college. It was an amazing trip. Went to Germany, France, Denmark, Italy, and Greece. Generally visiting people that I knew in each one of those countries. It was an amazing time. I was only 19 years old. And just the whole world suddenly opened up before my eyes, and I got hooked. And so my next thing was, okay, where am I going to go next? And I had the amazing good fortune. I went to a college, Kalamazoo College, that had a great foreign study program. That allowed me to go to Senegal in West Africa, where I lived for about 8 months studying. I tried to learn how to speak French at that point in my life. Got to a certain proficiency. I don't want to say I was all that great at it. But then after that, and it was almost while I was in Senegal in West Africa that I thought I would love to go to Japan. I was hired to be a tutor, an English tutor, for a Japanese young man, high school student. His family was living in Senegal, in Dakar, the capital of Senegal, and they had me as his tutor. And so I thought, boy, wouldn't it be cool if I went over to visit them? The irony is I never did get to visit them. However, I did get the idea, the sort of inspiration from them for going to Japan. And I feel like I'm kind of taking too long to answer this question, but I went to Taiwan. They wanted to know, what about my experiences in Taiwan? I loved Taiwan. I had a fantastic time there. And one of the great things about when I went to Taiwan, was the first time was 1988. I really made a lot of Taiwanese friends, and that allowed me to practice my Chinese a lot. I got to a certain level of proficiency in Chinese. I did a video some time ago where I tried to speak in Chinese. It's been a while. 那时候我比较会讲中文呢。That was my little attempt. I always sort of fall back on that same. Someone taught me something in Chinese, an old-fashioned romantic saying. If you haven't seen someone for a very long time, you can say 一日不见如隔三秋, something like that. If I don't see you, if for one day it feels like 3 autumns. How's that for the hopeless romantic in Chinese? I don't think I said that quite properly. Give me a break, people. It's been a while. Anyway, I had a fantastic time in Taiwan. I love Taiwan. I would really love to go back and visit someday. I hope I get the chance to. And then Japan. So I think in a way I better save that for another video if I want to talk more about Japan. But that sort of gives you the idea of my motivation of going to the Far East. And of course I married a Japanese woman, and my life is very much intertwined with Japan now. Let's move on to the next question, and that is, do you visit schools? If so, which one was your favorite? That question from ElfDog4678. And another question that seems unrelated, and that question is, what do you do with your drawings when you finish? That question from Sky2On. I almost said, hope I'm saying that right, but I stopped myself in the nick of time. In any case, the first question, do I visit schools? Yes, I absolutely do visit schools, and I've made a video in the past that sort of explained the process of how you might have a say here. Let me forget that I can turn this page when I need to. That you can have a role in getting me invited to a school. But I'm not going to turn this video into a big one of those. We'll plan that for a future video. But yes, I do visit schools quite frequently as a public speaker. And the question was, which one was your favorite? And I have a real easy one to go to, and that is this school called Oat Hall that I visited in Lindfield, England. Just this past November. Had a fantastic time there. And that was just a dream come true to be invited to speak in a school in England. Also did in coordination with that, did a signing at a bookstore in Manchester. And that was very well attended. I think there was like 100 people who showed up at that signing. I was just bowled over. But the related question that doesn't sound related, what do you do with your drawings when you finish? Well, simply enough, when I finish with one of these drawings that I make for a YouTube video, I tend to just hold on to it. I sort of stack them up, one upon the other, and hold on to them. But one thing that I will do with them is to give them as gifts, especially if a student who has got me invited to one of these schools. I will bring along one of my original pieces of art and give it to them as a thank you gift for having made the special effort. I did that for this young man, Quinn, who has a YouTube channel. Why don't I go ahead and I'll plug him. Put a little annotation link here. If you want to go check out his channel. Quinn got me invited to his school in England, and I gave him an original illustration from one of these videos. I'm trying to, was it the one with the girl with the headphones? I can't remember which one now. Some gift giver I am. I can't even remember after I give the gift, but I gave him one of these original illustrations. That's, people say, why don't you draw on a tablet? Why do you always draw on paper? Well, when you draw on paper, you have an original piece of art at the end of the day that you can give to someone as a gift. When you draw on a tablet, you have a file. You have a file, which, of course, you can print out, but it's never going to have the same feeling as a one-of-a-kind original piece of art. So that's why I continue to, use paper and pen or pencil, and then I scan it into the computer, and then I take full advantage of high-tech stuff, like Photoshop. I'm not one of these guys. Sometimes people see these videos and they think that I object to computer. Why don't you do digital art? Some people will ask. I'm like, yes, I do. I do all the time. I'm using Photoshop. I've been using it since like 1996. Use it quite a lot for coloring, toning, all kinds of stuff. But just in these videos, I don't like the idea of doing too much of a Photoshop or a computer approach. First of all, it assumes that you have such software on your computer. I don't want to limit myself to people who have that. And second of all, there's just something about seeing the human hand on the page that there's a connection there. That I think when you just see the cursor, like a mouse moving along a screen, there's just, there's not the same human connection there. But I'm not saying that I'm never going to do videos that involve Photoshop. I might. Let's leave the door open there. Okay, I see that I've already used almost 12 minutes. This drawing is not really anywhere near being done. And I do apologize if I have failed to keep the drawing in the exact center of the page, because that's one of the benefits of taping it down, which is what I normally do. And let's move on to the next question. Number 7, what kind of a guy were you in middle school, high school, and college? Well, I'm not going to get too long-winded about it, but I think maybe I'll just focus on high school. What was I like in high school? Of course, I loved to draw. I was always drawing things all the time. But I thought you guys might get more of a kick out of knowing that I was kind of a new wave guy. I don't want to say I was punk rock, because I definitely wasn't, but I was very new wave. I was into the synth pop of the early 80s. People like Thomas Dolby. I think I've mentioned even before the band Japan. I loved that sort of synthesizer sound. Depeche Mode has gone on to become very popular. We were into them. Oh boy, again, I'm going out of the frame here. We were definitely into Depeche Mode, OMD, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark. I think you can get an idea of when my high school years were. But I've always been into music. I continue to be really into music. And I am one of those guys, I'm proud to say, that feels that some of the best pop music I've ever heard is being done today. I'm not one of those people who's like, man, there's no good music now. It was best when I was in high school. There's so many people who are like that. I'm not like that. And honestly, I've heard some really great music that has, been done within the last 10 years. Some of my favorite songs I've ever heard have been written and recorded relatively recently. It's not necessarily the stuff that's on the radio. Not that I'm a snob about that. Occasionally there's some big radio hits that I get a kick out of. But I guess I am one of those guys who feels that some of the very best music being made today doesn't get anywhere near the radio for whatever reason. It just doesn't. And some of it sounds very radio friendly to me. And I'm like, well, why? Boy, I'm going off on a tangent. It's like, Mark, we don't watch your videos to hear you talk about music, dude. Get back to the topic on hand. Number 8. Do you think doing these how-to draw videos has helped you improve as an artist? And this question comes from the Right Design 1. I feel like I failed to credit that last question, the previous one, about what kind of a guy I was in high school. That question was from Ken Sheen 491. Did I? I don't know. If I didn't, I've doubled up there. But in any case, this 8th question, do you think doing these how to draw videos has helped you improve as an artist? Absolutely. Absolutely. Doing these videos has forced me to hold myself to a very high level of knowledge, I think, in terms of you can't teach something until you have, until you've really studied it. You can't just wing it. Some of my earliest videos, if you go back, you can see some of the drawings, some of the final result drawings are just not that good. I mean, in fact, that still happens, sadly. But I think I like to think that over the course of doing these videos, I've held myself to an increasingly high standard in terms of not doing the video until I've sufficiently studied the topic at hand. Boy, I keep doing this. No wonder I tape the thing down. If I don't focus and I just start talking and moving the paper around, it quickly goes out of the video frame. But yes, absolutely, doing these videos has helped me a lot as an artist, and in a very real way, I need to be grateful to all of you, to thank you for the various things you've suggested, like drawing a wolf, for example. I don't think I would have ever learned anything about drawing wolves, except that I kept getting that request from people, please show us how to draw a wolf. And so I had to sit down and study and learn a lot about drawing at least the head of a wolf so as to do that video. And that's just one example. Pretty much every video I do now involves me learning something. Even right now, right? I'm learning how to draw with my left hand, thanks to you guys, in a way. Not that this is great drawing, but I can sort of see that if I were forced to learn to draw with my left hand, it's sort of, it would take a year or two probably, but I can see that I might be able to do it. You'd find a way, wouldn't you? I certainly would. It's not like I would say, all right, forget it, I'm not going to draw anymore, because I hurt my right hand. You hear the stories of people who learn to hold the pencil with their toes and then draw with their feet. I mean, really, if you learn anything from this video, it is that the primary thing about drawing is your eyes. See what your eyes see. It's not so much your fingers and the way you grip the pencil. It's more your eyes telling you what looks right and what doesn't. And of course that comes from your brain learning to use your eyes in that way to see where the lines need to be and so forth. So yeah, hopefully that'll be for those of you who get real fixated on I don't hold my pencil the way you do. Should I start to hold my pencil the way you do? Absolutely not. Hold the pencil that's comfortable for you. In a way that's comfortable for you. Everyone's going to find their own ways of doing these things. It really is more about your perception. Let's see, 18 minutes. I better hurry up and zoom through these last questions. In fact, I have prepared a little segment here in which I'm going to do hyper-fast questions. But before I do that, what I want to do is a little time lapse. I promise you that I will not use anything but my left hand, but I want to try to finish this illustration up a little more in time lapse so as to move on to the final questions. All right, well, there's my drawing pretty much completed. I'm going to do a new thing, though, with this video, and if people like it, I will continue to do it with my future message to my subscribers videos, and that is to do a lightning round of super fast questions at the end of the video, and let's just go ahead and jump into it. Number 1, from Sapphire Away. Will this comment make it into the video? Absolutely not. Number 2, from Runix Zan. Dragons or dinosaurs? I'm going to say dragons. This one, number 3, from Sephirox. Do you like cheese? Yes, I do, but I hate it when they put a big pound of, shredded American cheese on top of a salad. That I do not like. Number 4, Runa D. Gamer. When is the 3rd book of Brody's Ghost coming out? It's already out. The 4th book is going to be out in April. Number 5, Quiet and Loud asks, would you ever draw a car on your channel? I might. Number 6, from Adilia Paula. When are you coming to Brazil? Well, as soon as a school or a book fair or a comic book convention invites me there and pays for my airfare to get there. Number 7, Viduor asks, what do you think about dubstep? I like dubstep. I like a lot of it. I don't like all of it, but I like a lot of it. My son is really into dubstep. Number 8, do you ever get tired of drawing or of doing tutorials for us? This question from Smishyful, love that name. And the question again, do you ever get tired of drawing or doing tutorials for us? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I love doing these tutorials. In fact, I love them so much. Do you know how much I love them? I love them so much that I will be back with another one real soon.